Hi, everyone, and welcome to Iowa Math Chats, episode number 2, the Iowa Math Standards. Today, we're going to talk about the Iowa Math Standards, and you can find those at iowacourt.gov. So you'll see that web address up here in the address bar. And I'm going to go to this page and click on Iowa Core Standards. You'll see that I get an underline when I hover over it. And it takes me to explore the Iowa Core. And since we're talking about mathematics, I'm going to go into select the subject, select the mathematics, and you'll see that it opens up to this page here. The standards of mathematical practices we'll talk about in another chat. These documents, again, in another chat. But for today's example, I want to use kindergarten. And so we're going to open up that by grade. And you'll see when you open up a grade, there's some additional information here. But I'm going to scroll down here and I want to go to browse by, and there's 5 headings here. And these 5 headings are known as domains. And domains are kind of like the topics in math. So we've got counting, operations, numbers, measurement, and geometry. So let's go ahead and look at counting and cardinality. And so I select that one. And you'll notice that I get 3 headings. And these 3 headings, this is known as a cluster heading. And why this is known as a cluster heading is these headings are what appear as bold in your paper copy of your standards. And also these are the headings that cluster standards together. Headings have a different number of standards within them. So you'll see in this heading, I have 1, 2, 3, and then I can go over here and expand this one. And I have 2, and in this one, I have 2. So why these are clusters is, again, these standards work together to do this heading. So if I want students to compare numbers, standard 6 and 7 need to work together to help students to compare numbers. If I want them to count and tell the number of objects, standard 4 and standard 5 need to work together. And I often get asked about the number of standards or the most important standards, and the standards aren't really structured that way. Standards are all different sizes, and so it's really hard to count them. So really, if you say you have 100 standards, if they're all really small, it's not really that much. But if you say you have 10 standards and they're really big standards, then that might be a lot of information. So it's really hard to base any conversation off of the number of standards. The other thing is that these standards need to work together to do the cluster. So really what we want students to do in kindergarten is these 3 things within this domain. We want them to know number names and the count sequence, count to tell the number of objects, and compare numbers. In order for that to happen, all the standards in the cluster need to work together. So if we want them to know names and count sequence, then they need to count to 100, they need to count forward, they need to write numbers, they need to do these things all together. So I wanted to use this example to really show that it is about these cluster headings that we want students to be able to do. And so we can go back to the counting and cardinality domain, and then we can go back to kindergarten over here, and we could select another domain. Now this domain just has 1 heading. And in the next screencast, I'm going to show you the focus document, which shows how many there are for kindergarten and what those are. So I hope you'll join us, and I hope that this was helpful.